I feel like a part of myself was lost last year. I was kicked out of my home and invited back after 3 days. When I applied to a different college course, I was told not to quote-unquote get my hopes up by someone that should have encouraged me, and in the end he ended up being right. I didn't write any music even though I tried so hard to. And the second anniversary of my lover's disappearance passed and I didn't even notice it for a month. 2025 was not my year to say the least, and I'll be completely honest, neither is 2026. Barring the obvious reasons, I haven't done much better, partially because I didn't even notice I was slipping into old pain. It's a realization I've made. I get a little too comfortable with disassociating from life to the point I don't even feel alive. A part of that comes from my art, the one thing I've been able to express the self I couldn't in reality. Here's everything I've made last year. Nothing. I need to make something. Not just a portrait, a screenplay, or a song. I have to do something bigger. Something I can throw all of this into. Something that will be heard. Something real. I held it in the back of my mind waiting for the right idea to strike. That was up until a couple of months ago when my friend told me about their newest project. A story told through Discord based on the web series / concept album Milgram. A series which I love. Huh. I should steal that. So before we continue, I think I should quickly explain what Milgram is and what I'm doing to replicate it. Milgram is a mystery ARG / concept album about a strange prison that seems to exist outside of time and space. Inside the prison are 10 prisoners who all share one thing in common. They're all murderers. Now you may be wondering where the mystery comes from if we already know they've committed the crime. Well, we know who did it, but we don't know why or how. And how do we find out this information? Through music videos extracted from their subconscious mind. Yeah, weird format, but I really like it as a guy that's a nerd about music. There are 3 trials that end with a vote. This is where the ARG element comes into play. It's the audience's job to use the information we've been given to judge them, innocent or guilty. A choice that affects the prisoners deeply, changing their demeanors and mindset for better and for worse. It's a format I'd really like to see come back for a season 2 once the 3rd trial concludes, but for now it's tribute to what we'll do. The issue is that I'm not a team of people. I'm a broke college student that struggles to get out of bed in the morning due to chronic pain. I don't have time to make 10 songs and then make 10 music videos for them, so we're gonna have to settle for kinda okay poetry, still images, and our imaginations. Thankfully, those are 3 skills I have, even if they are a bit rusty at this point in time. I also do not have a massive audience of voters, but I do have a group of my dipshit friends that are used to playing my games. This is something I think is more valuable. The only other big change I needed to make was in the writing, not the format. See, because Milgram was made for a large audience, the prisoners have to be fundamentally forgivable. Because it's the point of Milgram. All the prisoners should not be here. They don't deserve to have their lives left up to a vote and to be ruthlessly punished for what they've done. The issue is that so many of them are almost too forgivable. Like, in my mind, several of these characters shouldn't have or were never even voted guilty. This is not a flaw in the writing, this is the showrunners covering their asses. When you're writing something like this for an audience of people that you do not know, you kinda have to handle them with safety gloves. It may sound like a shit ad for this, but people will be stupid. They will actively misinterpret your work for fun and then hunt you down for sport when you tell them they're wrong. And the thing is, people have already done this with Milgram and it's as toothless as humanly possible. It's like kind of worrying. But since this is going to be shared between myself and my equally insane friends, I can trust them not to bite my head off when I introduce a character that is a fundamentally bad person, whose personal arc cannot be resolved with them being beat half to death. Speaking of the prisoners, let's get into them. Now, I could have made 10 brand new prisoners for HADAL, but I already have like 50 characters I already don't use. Why make new characters when I can reduce, reuse, recycle? So I dug around the pile and found 10 characters that have strong personalities, aesthetics, and interesting moral dilemmas that are perfect for this format. Of course, if you're familiar with my recent online activity, you may have already guessed who one of the characters I chose is. My beautiful vampire with a disorder, Ada Sonata, and I'm here to tell you, no, actually, as much as I love her, I didn't want to use characters that I'm already using in other places. I'm already using Ada in like 3 different tabletop games. She gets enough attention as is. Instead, I wanted to focus on characters that I've either had to scrap or shelf because of college or other reasons. However, I decided to make an exception for prisoner 1. Thingy was the main NPC in the first D&D campaign I ran, Camp Psionics, based on the game series Psychonauts, one of my favorite series of all time. I won't be going into too much detail here because I would be spending the rest of the video summarizing 2 years worth of this damn story. Just know that Thingy was made to fill a mentor role like Sasha in Psychonauts 1. He guided the players through the tumultuous experience of living with this life-ruining illness, along with keeping them safe from those that wish to use their fractured mental state to manipulate and use them. He was also the main villain of Act 1. He's also dead. See, the fun thing about D&D is that your players make choices, and the choice was to just execute him for what he had done, so HADAL's kind of a second chance if you think about it. I was also really eager to have a character in my prison whose main themes were dissociation and chronic illness. I want to play with perception, the way the subconscious mind manipulates the world around you, the truth you see. Feng is a deeply fucked person mentally. Most of his memories are swallowed whole by his illness, so his MV will be surreal and blurry, possibly even unfaithful to the actual series of events. His video is quiet, slow, methodical, made up of these long shots done in singular takes. When you're dissociating, you feel disconnected from yourself, like you're watching your body do things from a third-person perspective. I go through methodical movements for what feels like eternity, no past, no future, only a fuzzy present. Renee Lennon is one of my oldest characters, being around 9 years old at this point, and has been through a lot of reworks, the main one being gender. HRT really changes people. She's kind of the opposite of Feng in this regard. I've been bouncing her around for so long, she kind of doesn't have a concrete personality or world because I never really wrote anything down. Feng, on the other hand, is a character I've already established well, and a character I can trust to be consistent. This is a flaw in her writing for a long time until I just decided to play into it. Instead of making her a completely solid character, she's a young woman whose ego is warped, constantly shifting and changing depending on what makes her comfortable. The only part of her personality that stays truly consistent is her desire to escape into fantasy. While Feng is trapped viewing himself in excruciating detail, Renee disassociates by separating herself from reality. Renee's music video takes a ton of inspiration from 90s to 2000s shoujo anime, and more recent fantasy and manga and webtoons. A story of power, agency, and love in the form that embraces cuteness and femininity, girlhood. Renee is a woman who never really got to experience what it was like to grow up as a girl in the traditional sense, so she attempts to relive a better childhood as an adult. I wanted to make this clear in the style of her video. She views herself as rounder, cuter, younger, the rough, sharp edges sanded down for something more desirable. This also bleeds into the people around her. I wanted to be hard to figure out what happened and why. Horrible people are viewed through rose-tinted glasses, and the event itself is dressed in roses and beauty, because she's attempting to push it back as far as possible, rather than actually confronting it, because if she does, she will uncover something about herself that she does not want to. She won't be able to remain innocent, she has to grow up. Finch is a character I had been intending on using about a year ago. She existed before then, but this was the first time that she was supposed to be treated like a real thing. But god, she was treated like complete or utter dog shit, so someone doesn't happen again here. Please. Much like Feng, she was originally a tabletop role-playing game character, for Vampire the Masquerade specifically. Vampires in VTM are commonly only a couple of years into being turned and have the opportunity to interact and understand more about modern life, which I like, and it also made it easier to insert her into a modern day setting because she was already there. Another important part is that vampires are part of clans. Finch's clan is Clan Ventru. Ventru are money and power hungry, the aristocrats of the vampire world. Typically seen as these old barons or CEOs, I wanted to do something different with mine. As you can see, Finch is a loud, young, and eccentric woman, to put it lightly. She reads less like a businesswoman and more like a party girl, which is exactly what I was going for. I didn't want a stuffy guy in a boardroom, I wanted a gal snorting the purest coke money can buy off another gal's back. Hedonism for the win! I want to make her insane hedonism crystal clear through both her music video and lyrics. Taking inspiration from musical projects like Machine Girl and Fentanyl, both of their musical identities can be summarized in 3 words: violent, abrasive, and manic. It's why I wrote all of her lyrics in all caps, so you know she's yelling. Finch takes what she wants when she wants it through any means necessary, whether it be pleasure, pain, or both. Hi, if you haven't been second screening this video and have something to say about the amount of fan service in the background, I have this to say. God forbid someone a little bit of fan service, I gotta keep these people invested somehow! Arch is actually one of 2 prisoners that were not actually developed pre-HADAL. He didn't even have a name until I dropped him in here. Sometimes you make a character based on a concept or a loose idea that you don't actually know where to put, and I didn't really have a place for a lawyer anywhere, until now. Why did I feel compelled to create a lawyer despite not having a place for them? Well, I'll admit this with only a little bit of shame. I made Arch after playing through all of the original Ace Attorney trilogy, and then the first great Ace Attorney game. The fact that throughout the series, evidence and sound reasoning only gets you so far is interesting to me, because it highlights something important, that no matter what you're saying, if you say it well, people will trust you. Theatrics and obfuscation is obviously something I wanted to delve into. Arch has an advantage that none of the other prisoners do. He can make his case. He's used to being interrogated and is able to spin a story from nothing. Other than that, Arch doesn't really have a lot of specific inspirations. Instead, his music video includes a lot of nods to different art forms. Painting, novels, theatre. I thought it would be fitting since his most interesting trait is his ability to write stories, even if it isn't in the more traditional sense. However, I wanted to show a clear separation between Arch and the arts. And with the way I've described things, it seems like he's the painter, the writer, the performer. No! His career as a lawyer is shown clearly, because the way Arch views art is more interesting than clear metaphor. He's always a viewer, always on the other side of things. Dua Gulam has been getting passed around projects for at least a year now, probably because no one actually wants her. She's been a war veteran, a VTM character, and now she's trapped in prison, which I think is for the best. Considering my description of all the other prisoners where I've been very nice to them, you may think I'm being uncharacteristically mean to her. Trust me, she deserves it. This is a stupid comparison, but I want Dua to be kind of a mid-boss. The front half of the prison are decent, not great people, but their crimes aren't unforgivable. Fundamentally, most of them have pretty clear and understandable reasons for doing what they did. Hell, depending on the person, they could be seen as completely innocent. Dua is supposed to be a test to see how far people's capacity for empathy and forgiveness can be taken. Dua is a bad person. Unlike the first half of characters, who I all originally wrote with the intention of having them be quote-unquote good people if you ignore the everything else, Dua was the first one written with her crime at the forefront. Ironic that the most violent one is a nurse. Well, I suppose it makes sense for a medic to have the most blood underneath her nails, right? I wanted her MV and her lyrics to feel like a rock being slammed directly into the audience's skull. She's the only one with no obfuscation, no warped perception of reality. Her crime is intentionally painted in this visceral and realistic light. The first words on her lips is her victim's name. You can't hide from what she did. The only one not shown in clear detail is Dua herself. She is hidden in shadows, face darkened by the broken lights of a low-income home. More monster than man. Now, I have to cut myself off here. While I've tried my best to keep my mouth shut and not spoil things, I have failed miserably. I'm passionate, what can I say? In the back half of my prison is my absolute favourites in terms of aesthetics and writing. When, or if we're being realistic, if I take HADAL and make it into a real concept album, I want their cases to be a surprise. And I wanted to give a little highlight to my friend who's also been doing a project like this, the person who inspired me and pushed me to do my own, Anesthetic Todd. I asked her a couple of questions about her own inspirations and why he started it. The reason why he started as Milgram is pretty reasonable. She just wanted a place to indulge in his passion, something that was solely for herself. However, it also served as a way to further develop his writing and art, something I can relate to. We're both in the equivalent of a H&C course right now, and we've both found ourselves struggling to focus on our passions. When I asked specifically what motivated him to write something that played around with morals and public perceptions, she told me that she believed black and white thinking was an inherently flawed idea, an idea he felt compelled to tackle. Whether you view someone as black or white, you are dehumanizing them. To you, they are not a person with inferiority but a collection of actions. Everyone has reasons for doing things, good and bad, and these shouldn't be ignored or dismissed just because of who you believe them to be. Because someone who is a bad person is still a person fundamentally, and they deserve to be treated as such. My final question was what inspiration she took from other media. He highlighted BoJack Horseman and Invincible for their ability to show nuances and interiority of people in a tactful way, and Madoka Magica for his ability to humanize those that are seen as cruel, bratty, and selfish. It was an enlightening conversation, one that allowed me to draw connections between her work and her inspirations. But coming away from it, I was left with a question, not for her, but for myself. Why should we listen to you? What? What use is any of this if it's just a regurgitation of other people's work? What do you have to say? The scene has haunted me for months, and while I'm sure some of you can see why it has stuck with me, most won't. Last year I ran out of my home in fear, away from my parents. Originally I had my friends and my headphones there to make sure nothing happened to me, but my phone died almost as soon as I left my father's line of sight, leaving me alone in the blurry memory of my childhood. This is where I came upon it. With a racing mind full of fear, genuine fear, I saw something. A person, an animal, myself. I'm still not sure, but I was terrified. Like seeing an angel. I was warm. I haven't been able to rid myself of it. It's shown up in even the most innocuous things. This darkness. This is something that can't be replicated by someone else, because I'm the only one who's experienced it. I'm the only one who can make others experience it. I can help people understand me. But does it matter if no one cares to hear it? That was a question that had followed me as soon as I started doing art. I had no friends, offline and online. When I'd show people in my class, they'd ignore it, and when I'd post it on a site like DeviantArt, I'd be mocked. 8 years. For 8 years, I only had myself. Up until now, I suppose. That's not a question I need to avoid anymore because I have people. The biggest inspiration of my Milgram isn't art or some deep-seated and all-consuming pain. Instead, it's the fact that people want to hear me and what I have to say about delusion, pain, fear, morality, illness, trauma, violence, pleasure, survival, redemption. That's what pushes me forward. That's why I want to learn art again.